It's worse than you all realize. It's not just about police who stood back and did nothing. From Timcast.com. Border Patrol team who ultimately killed the shooter were blocked from entering the school by Uvalde police for nearly an hour.
Why?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
These people were, not only were they cowards, but they were obstructing the parents and the Border Patrol. This is something is wrong here.
Something's really screwed up.
Something is seriously wrong here.
Yeah.
Now they're saying they thought the children were at risk, and so they didn't want to risk it by storming in or something like that. And now they're saying it was a big mistake. I don't buy it. For you to stand outside that room hearing gunshots, knowing there are children inside.
Even if you don't hear gunshots, if you know children had been shot an hour ago,
Right.
still can't go in. There are kids who were shot inside, can't go in.
What do they think was going to happen? Like, after he killed all the kids, he wasn't a threat anymore? He's still got a gun. Look, let him run out of bullets first. That's crazy. Apparently he had like 1,600 rounds? We need right now, for our future generations, heroes to look up to. You know what we need? We need a story about one of these cops, what should have happened, storming in, kicking the door in, pulling out their service weapon, and ending this psychopath, and then telling people about how he risked everything to save these kids, and that's what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah. Well, the Border Patrol agent who actually did eventually kill him, right, was getting his hair cut. His wife texted him and said there's an active shooter in the school.
Really?
Help! And I'm sure you can find that article. And he was in the barber shop. He didn't have his weapon on him, but his barber had a shotgun.
Holy
He grabbed
cow!
the barber's shotgun and drove to the school.
That's
and
amazing.
He is the one.
That's
and
the story.
You can find the story.
Yeah.
That dude needs a movie.
That dude,
Yep.
and he's the one who eventually killed the shooter.
But
I'm sure you can find the article.
Let me pull that up.
That is the culture. And
That's
having
what we
been in
want.
this world for a while, that is absolutely in the DNA of every cop and every military official and every CIA officer that I've worked with. I would say in the vast majority of cases, that's what drives people to show up, is doing exactly what he did. Off duty, wasn't his responsibility, doesn't matter. It was still his mission because it was his community. It was his country.
That's what people dream of when they join the forces.
Yes.
Good people dream
That's
of
right.
having that moment when they can jump up, grab the nearest available weapon, and make it happen. Well, I wanted to say before we move to this really interesting sounding story, I think that this might be the result of what happened during the pandemic. When they were locking down, they were enforcing all these unconstitutional rules, and the good cops were like, I'm out, bye. So we're left with cowardly cops who watched what happened during the BLM riots.
I don't know if he was the guy who actually killed the shooter. They say it was a CBP BORTAC. Is it BORTAC group?
Border Tactical?
Yeah, that confronted him. But this guy did run in with his barber's shotgun.
Oh, he saved his wife and daughter. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But he took his barber's
Still,
shotgun.
an amazing story.
Yeah.
These are the guys.
Those are the ones that we need to make hero movies about.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you do it? It would be short.
Short
It's
and
like
sweet.
it's just a dad who said, "I've got to save my family." You know.
Yeah.
You know, again, what I would love to know is about this man's life. What drove him in his life to become who he became? What in his childhood, in his young adulthood, what made him decide that in that moment, sitting in that barber chair, that he has this beautiful family, that he was going to either try to save them, or he would know that as he was trying to save his family, he could be shot and killed, and he would be gone, and his family would have to survive without him. But he still got himself out of that chair, grabbed that shotgun, and ran. There's something interesting and beautiful about his soul that I would love to understand, because that's exactly what we need to uplift and celebrate.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
actually a good origin story for his kid to be like if you were doing a movie about someone
Superhero.
or like a Marine or a law enforcement guy who did something great, and it's like his origin was that his dad risked his life, and that was the message he got, and that's why he went on to become a hero.
I'm going to tell you what this guy is. He is a normal man who did something extraordinary. Because that's what, in history of this country, it's not somebody who was born into some fancy family.
Right.
It was a normal person who was put in an extraordinary situation and did something extraordinary with the power of that moment.
I don't know. When I think of the Kerrys and the Bushes and some of the prestigious families of the country, they've done amazing things. Just absolutely
amazing.
things.
Indeed.
I'm definitely in a maze when I think about those
Yes.
He
things.
took his
Yes.
barber's shotgun. He actually helped evacuate people out of the building.
Well, we have Medal of Honor for police, local, state police, things like that.
I don't know.
Maybe we should.
But I wanted to add before we move on, because our chat's full of people screaming Fed, is that this guy worked for the federal government. He worked for the Border Patrol. He wasn't a local cop. The local cops didn't do jack.
Deep state.
That's it. I knew it. That's
Well,
cool.
Deep State was here to
but
help us.
You raised a great question, though. Is there a Medal of Honor, an award? Will this guy be recognized? It will be curious. The next State of the Union is in 7 months.
Border Patrol agent.
Whoever the president invites to his balcony is always a very important, very symbolic. I will bet right now that Biden will take someone from Buffalo to highlight the racism angle, because that is what we do in our American politics. He will not take a hero and say, this is a guy who risked everything. He will take a victim and say, and it's because of this country that victimhood like this exists, because you're all bad. Vote for me again. So that's what I think is going to happen in 7 months.
It's a little speculative of me, but I don't think they'll build a statue for this guy.
No.
But they built a statue for George Floyd.
Yes. Pray for us, St. George
Who
Floyd.
was on fentanyl at the time
Yeah,
of death.
Indeed he was.
Oh, more than that.
It was no
Yeah,
good.
5.
Nah, he should not have died. I mean, I'm not trying to say that in any way, but we don't want to make those guys heroes. No, George Floyd died, and it's
victim.
tragic. And in many ways, I also think that he was a flawed human being. We don't want people just to die, but we don't tell our children to look up to the people who are dying in these tragic things and who have lived pretty bad lives. We want kids to look up to this guy, Jacob Alvarado,
I don't know his name.
who was getting a haircut.
Yeah.
And then decides, he gets a text from his wife, that's the story, and then says, she says, I love you, and he rushes in to help save. I mean, he wanted to save his family, but he helps evacuating a bunch of other people too.
Get Jacob Alvarado on the show.
That is a great idea. Might have to try that. Yeah.
I think, and you ask him the question, where'd you come from?
Well,
What's
he's
your
also
background?
What's going on?
CBP, so I'd love to talk to him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we'll get a lot of questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be great, guys.
Ask him if they really whip people when
Oh,
they
yeah.
cross the border.
That's what I want to know.
When you're on horseback.
I went to Austin, and I was staying at a hotel and flipping through the channels. I can't remember which news station turned on automatically, and it was this documentary, and it was just the weirdest Jussie Smollett level hoax, BS, leftist propaganda. And it was playing this dark music and showing all these awful photos of like Trump supporters and Trump looking angry. And then it showed the Border Patrol guy with the rain,
Yeah.
Please.
where they tried to convince people he was whipping them. It's just not real.
No.
These people believe Jussie Smollett hoaxes every single day.
Jussie is free again, right? Like, is that?
That's what I heard last
He hasn't
night.
been put back in jail.
Well, that's
For
what I
the
heard
time
last
being.
night.
He's still, yeah.
But you know what's not
He's got a
fake is
movie
the
coming
deep
out.
state. They're
No.
real.
Yeah, for sure.
So am I going to be run out of this place? Is
No,
that what's going to happen?
no, absolutely not.
I prefer the term administrative state.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes,
Speaking of, you
true.
were part of the administrative state.
I was.
What,
That's true.
Why did you leave?
2 reasons. The first was my brother was still is an alcoholic, but is needed to be in rehab. So I left to go make a bunch of money to get him into rehab. So thank God he's sober and doing better now.
Woo.
The other was I saw a lot of people who no longer were there for the right reasons. I can't talk a lot about the programs that I was involved in, but the upshot is that they were lying to the White House and the NSC and the oversight committees about how successful we were being at certain things. And I was like, you guys, this is incorrect. And they basically just told me to go F myself, right? So after a while, you were baptized as I was, born and raised in rural America. And my family loved the country, and I have cousins who joined the military and all that. So joining the CIA was an extension of that. So you would have thought, as I did for many years, that everybody would want to remain committed to the mission, to the country. But then I got to this level where I'm involved in various programs, and I'm watching them lie to our elected leaders, which I don't know, in hindsight, like how naive of me not to think that some of my colleagues would lie to protect themselves so they could get promoted, right? But it was so just disheartening that I was like, I'm not going to spend another 20 years of my life around these people who aren't here for the right reason. I got it. I'm out. I'm done.
So do you think, does the CIA have a little bit of an Enron problem where the numbers are inflated, but everyone likes the result, and so they're like, yeah, this is great.
So insider knowledge here, every 2 years or so, people rotate out of positions. So you want to be able, in your evaluation, you want people to say, oh, things were better than when you got here. Nobody wants to say, hey, when I got into this position, I actually did a little bit of scrubbing, and this is a bunch of bullshit. The programs that we're telling the downtown, that is to say the White House, the Congress, that are all great, Actually, they're garbage. Nobody wants to be that guy. So everybody waits 2 years and then leaves. So everybody kicks this corrupt can down the road. And so that's what's happening inside the agency to this day.
So term limits for administrative state. This has been brought up to me multiple times, and I'm a fan. What you're saying is absolutely solidifies my belief in that. If they're waiting 2 years to get in a promotion or and they'll just say whatever they need to say, I mean, that's the deepest, darkest crap.
So whether it's so I don't know what the solution is other than you've got to have more sunshine into those kinds of systems, and you have to have people raise their hand to the inspectors general, et cetera, to say, hey, there's an issue. But ultimately, this is about the House and the Senate, the oversight committees and their staffs knowing what questions to ask and holding the people in power to account. And that's true with the FBI too. That's what has failed over these past number of years with all these FBI agents who did this ridiculous crap in Michigan, setting those guys up. We saw it with guys like John Brennan, who knew damn well that there was no Trump-Russia collusion. But he left the agency and he went around the country for 2 years saying it was all but true, if not absolutely true. And he knew it wasn't.
I knew. James Clapper as well. Sorry to cut you off.
Yet another one.
Clapper with when they're talking about the PRISM spying network that they had uncovered and asked if they'd been spying on American people. His response was not wittingly, knowing full well, yes, you have been spying on the American people.
They built a big station, like a big building in the middle of nowhere to do it.
Under oath, he perjured himself. Congress did nothing.
Here's what the deep state is. I'm going to give you an example. A guy named Aldrich Ames. He was a CIA officer back in the 1990s. And he decided he was going to spy for the Soviet Union. And so he did. And then he was caught by the FBI. And they asked him, Aldrich, why'd you do it? And he said, because I know what's best for this country and its national security, and I'm going to act on it. So the deep state are these people who have profound powers who decide that based on their own politics, their own beliefs, they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do, irrespective of the law, and then they get away with it.
So was it like a corporate governance, basically, that got built in 1946? Is that right after World War II? Eisenhower basically put this thing together?
That's the upshot. Yeah, through the Second World War, there was something called the OSS. That was kind of the External Intelligence Service, and then obviously the FBI preceded that. But it was this. There was a need for foreign intelligence to understand what our adversaries are doing and to get ahead of that, right? So I get the need, and that remains. But the problem is when you give people any human power, some percentage of them are going to abuse it. And the more power that you give them, at some level, you're going to have more and more people who abuse it. It's just the nature of humanity. So how do you bridle that? How do you manage it? And there are different people who answer that in different ways. Maybe you don't do it at all because it's just too risky. You get rid of the CIA altogether, or you manage it better.
I always wonder if the deep state is and correct me, the organization itself is so big and so well entrenched that by the time there's a new president and they switch out John Podesta for who's the guy now? Bill Burr's the comedian.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be Bill Burr.
That would be fun. Bill Byrne, right? Right. I mean, by the time you swap these people out, doesn't matter who's at the top. Like, I'm doing my thing, and he doesn't know I exist. I know who he is, just to stay out of his hair. Is there some truth to the fact that the apparatus is so big that the people at the top, they rotate and no one cares?
That's absolutely true, and this gets back to the point that was made about the whether it be term limits, even in your bureaucracy, your mid-level guys, or it's just a size issue. You just expanded the state in the past 20, 30 years to such an extent that there are so many people who have so many entrenched interests that A, it slows down your mission, but then B, you get more and more people who can do more and more damage to your country because you give them such expansive powers. So I'm a big fan of actually reducing not just the size of government, generally speaking, which it's true, but specifically the deep state, as it were, the agency, the FBI.
I certainly think the administrative state, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, is a serious problem. But what about the argument, and I'm not saying it's a good argument, I'm just saying this is the argument made, that if we curtail our powers internationally and domestically, China will take over, and then we'll be living in a unipolar Chinese superpower, planet.
So here's the deal: CIA ain't going to stop China. The CIA and the FBI are not going to stop China. The FBI starts at least 10 cases every day against China right now. We have over 100,000 Chinese nationals who come into this country every year. So the issue isn't; it is like a dam that is bursting. We're trying to put our finger in it to stop it. You have good leadership within the White House and the House and the Senate that understands that China is a threat and starts treating them as such. The spies ain't going to fix this one. The FBI ain't going to fix this. They just won't. So we don't need to expand the administrative state to fix this problem. It's a political problem. You have to understand that China hates us. They're trying to destroy us. We are their enemies. And so you start changing that relationship. So, for instance, you take your damn economy out of China.
Do you think Trump could have stopped China?
I think he tried with his trade deal. I mean, he basically said, look, you guys start buying more of our stuff because you're stealing our stuff, right? So that's the thing that right now people are forgetting. Biden is actually thinking about getting rid of the tariffs. But Trump actually said, look, no, the tariffs ultimately are about saying to the Chinese, you still steal billions of dollars of our economy, our intellectual property every fucking year. So you're going to start paying more through these tariffs, or it's a penalty, right? So now Biden's going to get rid of them. Well, then what lesson have the Chinese learned?
Yeah.
They can keep stealing our
Well,
stuff.
so my question, I suppose, was if Trump was working towards ending this expanding dominance of the Chinese economy and taking of our infrastructure, our manufacturing, things like that, I should say, our economic infrastructure, and the spies weren't able to stop it, but they were able to stop Trump, they've effectively propped up China. They've secured our doom on the global stage.
Yeah.
I will point out it's not China, though. It is the CCP, the occupying force of that land.
Well,
Touché.
amen.
Actual
Amen.
government of China is
Yep.
the Republic of China, located in Taiwan, and they are in very good terms with us right now.
What
That's
would
true.
the deep
That is correct.
state
Well
say if China...
Ian, you are right.
Thank you, sir.
What would the deep state say if China unleashed this, like, let's just call it a virus, and like it went worldwide? Would there be penalties according
CCP.
to
CCP.
FCCC?
The Chinese people are, man, they're stuck under that totalitarian
They are.
occupying force
And-
for real right
and-
now.
and-
Mao like seized control.
Commies.
But removing the economy from China, we saw during COVID how 95% of our pharmaceutical is based in China. Nothing has been done to change that. Now we look at similar geopolitics. We look at Ukraine and we say, boy, this was really bad that we import 60% of our fertilizer from Russia. Nothing will change about that. We used to produce our own pharmaceuticals. We used to produce our own fertilizer. The whole Gulf Coast was where we got them. Why did we ever move these industries overseas? And show me one person in the Senate, and there are lots of pro-America, I hate China, I hate Russia senators, and they're all on the right. Show me one of them who is making a concerted effort to say, I don't care what the global market says, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Merck, fertilizer. All of you have to come back to America because there is a geopolitical and national security risk to having these critical. You want to get your olive oil from Italy? That's great. Get your cheese from France? Totally cool. But your fertilizer can't be made by your enemy, nor can your aspirin. But there is not one serious piece of legislation to bring or movement to bring all these things back to America. None whatsoever. We'll just watch China do it again and say, wow, that was really bad. But, thanks for my iPhone.
So this is, maybe I'm just, to be honest, a surface level dude. I'm sitting here reading the internet, thinking I know so much about, geopolitics and international conflict. And I assume there's probably some CIA or FBI guy sitting in his office with all this classified information, just laughing, being like, "Oh, if only you really knew." Maybe that's the case.
I hope.
But I
don't
do
think so.
because I want to believe. Right, exactly. I want to believe they're sitting there saying like, "Here's why we had to do what we did because we are concerned about China taking over. We are concerned about these Uyghur camps. We're concerned about the Belt and Road Initiative. We're concerned about oil exploration in South America." But really, what it feels like is Trump derangement syndrome went viral within these agencies. Trump actually was doing things that were good on foreign policy, and they stopped him. And that's the problem of the deep state, the administrative state. You know what the media tries to do? They try to make you think the deep state is a cabal of people who meet below DC with robes on and have like a pentagram on the ceiling. No, it's just that people who get jobs.
That's Hollywood. That's Hollywood.
Yeah.
What it actually is, that's why Ian brought up administrative state.
J.
Is
Edgar
a
Hoover,
better
man.
term.
Yeah.
It's people who don't get fired. They're working there for 20 years between a bunch of different presidents, and Obama gets elected. He sits down and they say, "Here's what's happening, and here's our plan." And the president goes, "Okay, I guess."
Dude.
And so they just do whatever they want as long as they want.
J. Edgar Hoover was the head of the FBI for 48 years, 47 some years. Like, he ran the country. He was running the country. 47 years he was the head of the FBI. I mean, I've never been in the FBI, but I mean, what's the power? I would imagine that power level is immense.
Amen. So particularly without going into the history of the FBI, he absolutely decided the political winners and losers of this country. And that's really what happened during the 2020 and 2016 election, particularly 2016 with Hillary Clinton and Trump, right? So after Trump was elected, you had a bunch of former CIA and FBI officials, James Comey, leaking classified information to force the appointment of a special counsel. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one man, an FBI director, who decided that Trump should not be in power, not because there was actual data or information that said we had a problem, but he just didn't like the guy. So he goes to the New York Times, leaks it in order to get Bob Mueller. That is J. Edgar Hoover level stuff. And we haven't seen that in a long, long time. I foolishly believed that those dark days were over, but that showed me that it ain't gone. There were still absolutely people in positions of authority and power who still do this J. Edgar Hoover stuff.
The Sussman trial stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
We had Kash Patel the other day, and it's just shocking. The FBI knew it was bunk almost immediately. You had apparently one guy testified that Hillary Clinton knew and signed off on the Russiagate narrative fabrication. Wow.
Yeah. The agent, is it Sussman himself, who lied on the FISA warrant to get these
Against Page.
to get the FISA? Yeah, so that's the same guy. It is the same level of corruption and negligence and evil and dereliction of duty on a different level, but it's the same idea as the 19 guys in Texas who stood in the hallway and listened to the gunshots. This is exactly what your mission is, and you're like, yeah, but I'm not going to do it. Like, you know this is a lie. Yeah, but I'm not going to do it. Like, you know what your job is right now, and the oath you have taken, yeah, I'm going to do the opposite.
You know, I'll tell you on one piece that in the last couple of weeks I did on my podcast and talked a lot about that doesn't, I think, get enough attention. 107,000 people last year died because of fentanyl or drug overdoses. Most of them, of the 107,000, were fentanyl. The point is, most of that comes from China. Those are precursor chemicals that come from China. China knows these companies that are producing it. They know that they, in turn, are dealing with Mexican cartel members, and it's then all feeding into this country. China is killing 100,000+ of our people. Why are we not all like outraged that the communist government in Beijing is doing this in concert and collaboration with Mexican cartels? It should be getting far more attention, certainly, than even Ukraine. I mean, as much as that absolutely runs the risk of World War III, and I think we can talk about that as well, because I think we're getting there. That issue of dead Americans in this country, especially in rural America, is so real and so painful for me personally, but for so many others. It deserves more of our attention.
And that's why, because it's rural America. And we were saying to this before the show started, if the overdoses from fentanyl and Chinese opioids were Upper East Side collegiates, this would have been stopped by now. But it's mostly rural, mostly poor, mostly hillbilly whites, and we don't really care.
They targeted the farmers.
It's just, exactly, it is not a population the American government care about, because they don't like them. Even their own representatives don't like them. Look for any liberal who represents a rural state who's running for office. Even they are ashamed of their constituency. They don't care.
But I'm going to tell you right now, in Pima County, Arizona, where I am from, if you were a kid, the thing that's going to get you, in terms of the thing that's going to kill you, is fentanyl right now. Mm-hmm. It's not car accidents. It is fentanyl. And Pima County is not a rural, white hillbilly area. You are right. The preponderance is absolutely, that is true. But it's hitting communities in lots of parts of this country. Black, brown, it doesn't matter. It is hitting our young people most especially, because that shit, pardon my language, is mixed up with weed or with other stuff. And they're like, hey, let's experiment, let's try and have a good time. And then they end up dead because there's just such tiny amounts of that they end up killing you.
I find it to be an extension of the Opium Wars. Apparently, this is when the British and other Europeans were shuffling opium into China. They were basically colonizing China in the mid-1800s, and they were like, we're going to wreck their population, make them incapable of fighting, and then we're going to conquer it and take it as another colony, like what they did with India. But the Chinese eventually fought back and pushed them back to the coast and off and into Taiwan or Hong Kong or these islands. But it never ended for them. They play the long game. Any wise regime thinks hundreds of years in the future and will never forget what people are capable of. And that's what they're doing. They're sending it into Mexico, like you said, with the cartels, using them to run it up into the country. They're destabilizing our youth. You see it in the, dysphoria movement. You see in the shootings. And the pharmaceutical companies seem to be capitalizing on it. They've actually created medical fentanyl. I don't know who's in charge. Is it AstraZeneca? Who actually prints this stuff? This stuff that they're working, colluding with the CCP.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.